Winter is coming.
Might just be the cold.
Winter is coming.
It's cold outside.
You don't know cold.
Winter is coming for him.
It's either me or this cold, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
And winter is coming.
You look cold, boys.
Tis a bit nippy.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
That's cold. Winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cold.
It's cold and it's wet.
Winter is coming.
You're crying because you're cold?
You're a long way from home. And winter is coming.
I imagine you might be rather cold.
And winter is coming.
No, that's all right, I'm fine.
You're not. You're freezing.
Winter is here. It's my man Russ Winter, checking in from the Czech Republic. What's going on, Russ?
Not much. I just got through the summer, did my pool activity, and now I'm getting ready for winter too here.
Yeah, well, we're all very proud of you for getting in the pool and getting back.
Thrashing around out there.
Yeah,
Gotten real cold here the last week. I'm doing polar bear swims.
That'll get your blood going.
Oh, you feel it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The fifth time I did it, I got used to it.
For people that aren't familiar with Russ, Russ is the curator of winterwatch.net, and it is by far one of your best sources for news on the internet. A lot of the content is contemporary, things that are happening now. There's also a lot of evergreen content where Russ has gone into any number of subjects that we're all very familiar with here, and with a lot of really great detail. And a lot of the content that Russ writes about, we cover here once a month, the first Friday, right here on the Friday FARcast. So I urge you to go check out winterwatch.net and stay abreast of the world according to Russ. So we're going to be talking about a lot of this New York stuff, a lot of the migrant stuff, and there's a video that's gone viral very quickly, and it's from Eli the People's Guy, who has a YouTube channel, and it's him in front of this migrant hotel, which is what he finds out, and it's an incredibly striking video on so many levels. And you had sent it to me probably about 3 days before I actually was able to get to it and watch it. And so there's some other videos that we're gonna look at, some of which are they're illustrative of the crisis, the manufactured crisis that's going on. And there's also some other videos where people are waking up. And
yeah, I might add that really over the last, I'd say 3 weeks, if I could timestamp it.
Yep.
All of a sudden, all this material really shows up on Twitter, old Twitter, or X, and all the stuff that was being hidden from us for the last few years is now just right in your face. And it's probably because Elon Musk is, for whatever reason, is on board this issue, and he doesn't censor it at all. So there's a lot of material about the starkness of this whole thing and the impact of it and the political. And then all of a sudden you notice that in the last few days, all of a sudden Biden is panicking and these sanctuary cities are panicking. And Mayor Eric Adams is running down to Mexico City to say, hey, do something about this. And then Denver's saying, don't come here. No more sanctuary city here anymore. So the whole migrant thing in terms of sanctuary cities and the people responsible for all this is all of a sudden blowing up in their faces as this stuff that we're going to cover. We're going to cover some of it so everybody can get a firsthand look.
What's interesting is that, we've talked about Cloward Piven on this show before. Not you and I, but I've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, well, we have.
Yeah. Okay, we have. Okay, so this is like a reverse Cloward Piven, right? They're going to take the migrants. And by the way, I'm not really in favor. I live in Texas, so there's a part of me, it's like, well, Greg, thanks for sending them to New York. They're not here. There's a part of me, like, I'm kind of there, but it's like, just turn around and send them back. But that said, that is a Cloward Piven strategy where you use a version of their system against themselves, which is what Cloward Piven did when welfare hit the rolls. And they got all these people signed up for welfare, even though they didn't want it in New York City, another New York City connection. And they broke the city, right? They broke the city. There were other things. There were strikes and general chaos and malfeasance. But this is in some ways kind of like a reverse.
Well, so, of course, my theory is that all this is internal, that you can't, there's that quote, I think I sent it to you, or I tweeted it out, by the president of El Salvador, is saying, this is happening really fast. And this type of destruction, Cloward Piven type destruction of a whole country, has to be internal from within, not external. So it goes back to what we talk about a lot: infestations, fifth columnists, the people running the show, the turtles on the fence post, are doing this deliberately.
Yes.
Well, now we're kind of hitting the wall. It's kind of hard to restrain this stuff anymore. So they're flailing around, looking for people to point the finger at other than themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. El Salvador used to be just an absolute nest of crime, right? With MS-13 and everything.
Well, that still is, but the guy who put everybody in prison.
He did. They got it. He's not even Salvadorian. I think is he like Lebanese or Syrian or something like that? He's not even Salvadorian. And he's just like started locking these guys up. Right. And it's like now the crime in El Salvador is a lot lower. So they can't, unless they empty out the prisons, now they've got to go international. So you've got all these people that are coming from Africa, other parts of South America. I think there's Nepalese and Tibetans coming in. There's Chinese coming in.
Well, we should probably start out with this video of these people going through the Darian Gap in Panama, so people could understand what's involved with that. Now, if you know your geography, the Darian Gap or Panama is well south of Central America and Mexico. So that means the people that are actually coming through there are coming from South America or elsewhere. And they're also running a racket out of Istanbul, regular flights out of Istanbul to Bogota. For 10 grand, the traffickers will take you from Istanbul to Bogota, and then you could try your hand at the Darian Gap. So the people coming through the Darian Gaps are from all over the world in South America. Those aren't your standard Central Americans and Mexicans. They don't need to, those people don't need to go through the Darian Gap.
Right. Let's take a look at it. I think I have it queued up.
And take a look at all the children and women. There's two of them. I have kind of a little YouTube video that kind of talks at length about it. We probably should watch that. And then there's kind of a glimpse of it.
There's this one, right?
Yeah, just kind of play that. That's real quick.
I mean, this is a river of human flesh is what this is.
That's just a swamp because they don't even have any roads. Slow. Trench foot.
He's wearing a MAGA hat.
All kinds of diseases.
She's got her pool cue right there. She's going to hustle some people.
Rough, man. Ugh, awful. Probably hot and humid.
And for years, the Darian Gap was one of the most dangerous places on the planet. I mean, you just didn't go, over land or over swamp because it was just, riddled by the cartels.
What about the sanitation of going through this stuff? So then the other video shows them going into this indigenous village in Panama, in southern Panama.
Here, let's find that.
That one's a little bit buried, but that's a good one too. So that's the start of this trek of the southern contingent.
Let me see here. There's one at El Paso.
400,000.
There's the El Paso one.
Let me go to the.
Here's one. The South American gangs literally invading the country. There's that one.
It is
Border Control cuts the wire.
Suzanne, tweet by Suzanne. No, that's not it. Yeah, white light, Panama. Up above my conspiracy, the spoiler alert symbol. 3
Okay.
up. Panama community struggle with wave of migrants crossing the
Suzanne Hopkins.
Darian Gap.
Got it. Okay, let's check.
It says white light. It's a YouTube.
Oh, you don't want to show the Suzanne Hopkins one?
Yeah, we could show that too. I
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of
on it.
forget that.
Let's do this one. This is just to give people an idea as to.
Well, the visuals are really amazing because you don't see this.
No.
You really don't know what's going on, but now it's coming out in the open, being revealed.
Yep. Yeah, and look, I think so. My theory about Elon Musk is twofold. My theory is that he is from South Africa. And even if you want to pin elite status on him, he knows what happened in South Africa. And he sees it happening here. And he's got kids, he's got investments. Yeah. So I think this is part of it. I think this is one of the reasons why he's allowing this to hit Twitter.
Yeah, before him, this would never have turned up. They would continue to keep this stuff hidden like they do everything.
Here's another one. This is a really arresting visual. Let me bring this one up here. And he's also, boots on the ground here in Texas, right? He lives here. And he was down at the border. So look at this. They're crossing in all these people.
That's the Rio Grande.
That is the Rio Grande.
Which you can wade across. It's not that deep.
Right.
In certain spots.
Did I ever share my migrant defense strategy for the Rio Grande with you?
No.
So my migrant defense strategy was to genetically engineer a couple of schools of piranha.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So that they couldn't reproduce. But you just dump them in Rio Grande. And then, let them eat. That was my tongue-in-cheek solution. I'm trying to find this video. There's the end wokeness video from El Paso with the hordes.
Why don't we come back and do Panama first? So we'll do kind of the white light one. Let's do that one.
Okay, I got to find the white light one. Hold on. I got Lucy Park, Suzanne Hopkins, white light. Okay, here we go. There it is.
See it tucked in there. So let's do that.
This is
so we'll do the trek that these people are going through.
This is 3. Let me make this bigger. Hold on. Let me go back. Do screen share. What we're seeing here is unprecedented. On a global scale, this is unprecedented. The world is being just massively socially engineered right now.
Yeah, weaponized.
Our very eyes.
Yeah, weaponization is what this is.
Yep.
Panama's 130-kilometer-long Darian Gap is one of the world's most dangerous jungles. It's sparsely populated by small indigenous communities. But an unprecedented wave of hundreds of thousands of migrants making the perilous journey across the gap in an attempt to reach the United States is threatening the once pristine rainforest. Bajo Chiquito, population 300, is receiving between 2,500 and 5,000 migrants a day, and the impact is obvious. 57-year-old Eduardo Mejia, an indigenous community policeman, or Sarra, was born here.
The water upriver is contaminated with clothes and the dead bodies of the migrants that don't make it. So we can't drink the river water anymore. We can't even eat the fish.
Vultures are now everywhere, attracted by the odor of human excrement and rubbish. The village, which has no sewerage, electricity, or potable water, simply cannot cope. At the first aid clinic, Dr. Ariel Garibaldo expresses fears of an outbreak of diseases like cholera.
This is a place where an epidemic can break out at the snap of your fingers because of the overcrowding conditions in such tiny space where people are arriving from all over the world. We have no way to deal with an emergency.
The migrants are mainly from Venezuela, but also from as far away as Bangladesh, Africa, China, and the Middle East.
The indigenous Embera people have been living here in this jungle for hundreds of years. These children, for example, learned to swim before they could even walk. But while this all may look very idyllic, the tsunami, the constant entrance of thousands and thousands of migrants is not only threatening the health of this area, but also these people's way of life.
Indigenous leaders of 4 villages want to end the chaos.
It's important that these migrants be put into a special camp so that they do not mix with the local people, because we don't know what they bring, and they can also be sleeping with our women and impacting our culture.
But a great many villages...
Yes, that was racist.
That was an interesting comment.
You got right to the chase on that one. That's what you call simplicity. All right, here we go.
The wave of migration. People like Esmeralda, who has set up a food stall and provides Wi-Fi services.
It's helped the whole town a lot and the other 3 indigenous towns along our river, because we women are now selling food, and that helps our children in the family. We make a lot of more money now.
Business is so good that many in the community have abandoned their fields of bananas, corn, and rice. Beyond the benefits and drawbacks of this phenomenon, the majority of people here want the government to enact changes and improve conditions, not just for the migrants in transit, but for the indigenous communities of the Darian Gap, who've long been forgotten. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Darian Gap, Panama.
Okay, really... I got to make a comment here. You know, obviously you've got an economic and social human mess in Venezuela, but let's kind of examine what, in part, that's all about. With the sub-zeros that run the United States, they've been sanctioning that country and just pushed them into oblivion.
That's right. Well, that goes.
If they lifted the sanctions and opened up the repair of their oil industry, they've got a lot of resources, a lot of oil. That country would start really bouncing back, but they're not doing that either, are they?
Well, I thought we were buying oil from Venezuela. That's what I thought. Let me just check on that. Hold on.
I think it's a partial lifting of the embargo, but the problem is that Venezuela really can't produce oil anymore because their oil fields are in such disrepair. So they need to come back in and put several $1 billion into these fields, get them running again. And that would alleviate some of the big energy and oil shortages in the world too.
Since 2019, they have not had any oil coming from Venezuela. You know, What's really interesting about
That's
that
huge
is
now. That's huge now.
Well, yeah. I mean, so if you go back to 2019, Trump's president, they don't want Maduro as president of Venezuela. They want Juan Guaido. And they were using the sanction game to try to run a coup. That's what they were doing. And they wanted Maduro out because Maduro is a socialist. And Guaido, I'm pretty sure Guaido's a Freemason. I saw something about that. But Guaido was like their inside guy, right? And they even brought him to one of Trump's State of the Union addresses, where he introduced him in Washington, D.C. It was kind of like a little bit of a Zelensky moment, right? That they recognized him as the true leader of Colombia. And they tried to, they brought in Elliot Abrams, you know that guy, Elliot Abrams?
Oh, yeah.
They brought him to skunk work that thing, and it failed. There was some. Do you know the fishing boat story?
No.
So they had some guys down there who were gonna, they're trying to run this coup, trying to get the locals to revolt. They're trying, this is standard.
Oh yeah, they had the lieutenant or something that led the coup, some captain.
Right, but then there were these guys that were essentially accosted, or they were boarded by these guys with fishing boats. The guys with fishing boats must have had guns. Turns out they were Americans, and it was they were working on a bit of a Bay of Pigs thing in Venezuela. These guys got caught. So they've been trying to flip that government for a while. What's interesting to me is that that's a Trump issue, right? Like whatever kind of nationalist Ponzi scheme they were running, that was a Trump issue. Here we are. We're 4 years into Biden, and you would think that the Biden administration, filled with lefties, would lift the sanctions.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, right? It's really weird. So it leads me to believe that's no accident here. There's a pattern of just creating really bad conditions. Let's go with Venezuela. Next thing you know, a bunch of Venezuelans are going across the Darian Gap. I don't think that's any coinky dink at all.
Oh,
I think you can really point to these sanctions, and there's particularly the lack of supplying oil equipment and oil expertise, which is what they're doing with Russia now too. So once again, the overuse of sanctions comes back to bite you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And essentially what these people want to do is they want to choke off oil production, period. End of story. Right? They don't want any cars for the general populace that operate on petroleum-based fuel.
Yeah, that's more Cloward and Piven.
Yeah, they don't want it. They don't want it, right? So yeah, I mean, you would think that they would do something different with Venezuela, but they don't. This border wall that Biden wants to build, I think that's to keep us in, not to keep them out. That's what I think.
Yeah, they're totally incapable of doing anything right. They just deliberately bumble all the time and create outcomes, unexpected outcomes, unanticipated outcomes, and then just sort of wave their hands, run down.
But then they have their solution, right? I mean, that's what they do. Well, here's a problem. There's a problem here. Well, you probably created the fucking problem, right? Here's the reaction. Everybody's going to wring their hands. It's going to make life difficult for people. Oh, and here's the solution. Well, the solution is generally going to benefit whoever helped create the problem.
Well, one of the solutions, you can use Sweden as an example. Sweden has just welcomed all these migrants, messed up their society. They've taken over whole towns. And then finally they have to react to it because the whole country is in bad shape. So what did they do? They introduced biometric surveillance.
But that's part of the solution, right? Yep. That is part of the solution.
It's funny to the United States because we could flip over next to the South American gangs. The story I sent you on the South American gangs. Let's take a look at that. It's I've got it in my around the webs on my site.
Okay. Is it in the message queue?
I think I put it in there.
Okay.
But it's good because these are specifically South American gangs. And I don't want to do a spoiler alert on it. I want everybody to actually see this news report rather than have Russ Winter interpret it.
Oh, here it is, right here. Okay, got it.
For Oakland County. Now we can tell you a little bit more about who is wanted for them. Gang members, organized gang members out of South America, and they are hitting these high-end homes hard.
In our area, they are targeting jewelry, precious metals, high-end items such as purses, electronics, currency, high-end watches. And if there's a safe that's not attached or they can either break into on scene or carry, they'll do that.
Organized crime at its most effective, taking advantage of the U.S. southern border. U.S. laws that release people who get arrested almost immediately after setting up of high-end homes in Oakland County. Gangs from South America sending people into those high-end homes and stealing a staggering amount of cash, jewelry, you name it. But how do they get here?
They typically, we have seen, entered the country one of two ways, either illegally across our incredibly porous southern border, which I'll talk about at the end, or they're using the visa waiver program, the VWP program, which is authorized by the State Department.
Russ, the floor is yours.
You know, what can you say? These South American gangs are quickly getting established. There's a lot of criminals are coming in, probably mostly from Venezuela, maybe Colombia. You know, Colombia is a little more stable country than Venezuela is because it doesn't have the sanctions on them, and they've kind of got a lot of natural resources. So they're just letting them in, and then they're quickly organizing and kind of reinforcing the MS-13, the Mario Salvatrucha gangs that have been here for a little while. And then now that El Salvador is cracking down on that gang, they're clearing out of Dodge too.
Right.
So they push them out of El Salvador, and they come in and are spreading into the United States. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more actual reporting on this, because all this stuff, like I say, has been hidden away. It is no longer.
Right.
These accounts that are putting this up on Twitter are no longer being deep-sixed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
and
interesting.
There are people in the United States that are trying to expose this stuff. It kind of gives me some hope, or some encouragement that there's actually people who care. It's
kind of like looking around for the morning after pill now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what we're dealing with. The deed has been done.
Yeah.
And now we got to figure out how to undo the deed, and that's not easy.
Right. So unless you're willing to intern these people, put them in camps, and return them to their home countries, which is really going to be a long process, then they're just going to run amok. Now you could close the border off, but there's a bunch of people coming up from the Darian Gap that we just saw a few days ago that are going to be arriving.
Well, Mexico may want to take a few in, right? I mean, it could be worse. I mean,
right,
they could be where they were before. Could be worse. Yeah, we've crossed the Maginot line here.
Yeah, the Rubicon. Yeah.
The Rubicon has been crossed, and now you have an entire industry that is quickly assembling around this so-called crisis, right? That's what's happening now, is an entire industry. So why don't we do this? Let's play the New York video that most people have seen. Now I want to break this one down a little bit, because there's a lot going on here. And if you haven't seen it, you're in for an absolute, I would call it a treat, but it's a bit of a mind bender and a good one. All right, so let's go to, you have it and I have it too. All right, this might be the viral video of the year. Hold on. Okay, so all right, let's just start here. You got the NYPD van, and look at the background. You got a bunch of people doing nothing. Right? That in and of itself is an interesting commentary. And this is not the guy doing the viral video. The viral video is this guy called Eli, the People's Guy, and he's got the cell phone. And this dude, who more likely works for Arrowhead Security, is coming up. We're going to get into them in a minute. All right, so let's start here, right here.
Yeah, because he sees Eli with his camera, right? Can't have cameras.
Excuse me? You're not supposed to film here. That's what I'm saying. You're not supposed to film here. What is this? I don't know.
He said you're not supposed to camp here.
I don't
He
have
said.
the right to do what? Yes, you don't have right to film in here. That's what I'm telling you. What is this over here? And who are you? Okay, you want to know who I am? Please, sir. You don't have right to film here. I'm talking to you right now. You don't have right to film here. Can you please? Who are you? I don't know.
I don't know.
That is the highest unintentional comedy moment. I don't know.
This guy hasn't been in America long, because he doesn't realize the sidewalk is public space. So he's a newbie in the country, and he's been hired for security.
Oh, this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon. Apparently, the people that are guarding the J6 people are mostly from Africa. So they've figured out that they could hire a group of people who will basically do what they're told, and it's not a secret. There is a high degree of antipathy between Africans and American blacks, right? So in this instance, you're seeing some of this. So this is kind of interesting. This guy's from Nigeria, by the way. All right, let's keep going.
Bro, who are you? The building. They don't want nobody out here. They don't want nobody where? They're standing in front of the building with a camera. Okay. Oh, y'all bugging. And you really want to record it, bro? You bugging. All right, you wait. Yo, why you surrounding me? Why you surrounding me? Yo? You wait. Oh, now you want me to wait? No, you wait. What's up, yo? What's up with you, yo? Relax. Yo, why y'all surrounding me? What's up, yo? Relax. You can't be here. Relax. You can talk to NYPD. Talk to who? I don't talk to popos, nigga. I'm not a snitch. Turn around, nigga. You go talk to them. Turn around, nigga. Stop playing with me. Look at this one. Look at this bird. Yo, who are you?
I love that. Look at this bird. And this guy says, my property. Like, what the fuck? Here we go.
You, bro. Why you on my property? Oh, your property? My property. Yo, stop playing with me, yo. I'm about to knock him the fuck out. That's what I'm about to do. Gotta move back. What the fuck is all y'all niggas doing, bro? Right. Especially you, bro. Who the fuck you think you are? Huh? You don't come to the sidewalk and talk to me like that, nigga. You hear me? You hear me? Make this the last time you approach a member of the public giving them orders on the fucking sidewalk, nigga. Stick to your job. This is our job to tell you to move. You don't tell me to fucking move, nigga. I don't go by. Who are you, nigga? Doing my job. Who are you? Your job is inside, nigga, not outside, bro. Outside. Who? Security. What security, nigga? Look at you. Look.
All right, this guy right here. Right there, the guy in the maroon. He's the super, right? He's going to come out.
Oh, okay.
And direct the situation, right? Now he's coming into the mix. Watch him.
Look at you. Look at the cop right here, nigga. What's your name and badge number, brother? I don't know how to read. Right here. What is it?
You're filming it.
What is it?
It's right here.
Say it out for the people, bro.
7807.
Name.
What's up?
Thank you very much. There you go. Now you keep it moving in the fuck.
He called him bro, right?
Yeah.
Like that's really interesting. Like he calls the white cop bro, and he's breaking.
Yeah, because the white guy is a fellow American. That's why.
It's such an interesting transposition.
Yeah, it is.
He calls him bro, says thank you, and then just takes out like the automatic, N-word launcher on these dudes, right? So for a brief moment, he's got some respect for the cop. And then he turns around and he just goes right back into it.
With me, nigga, before I knock you the fuck out, nigga. Fuck is wrong with y'all niggas, man? This is sidewalk. I don't know what this is. I don't know who you are. You don't come outside and give me orders, nigga. All right? And I'm still here. And you came to and gave me an order. And why were you still here?
That's a supervisor back there.
Everybody, there you go. You got orders. Get your ass inside, bro. Don't come to the sidewalk giving members of the public orders.
Look at all the security they have. My God, just dealing with Eli. Wow.
Yeah. And this dude, by the end of the video, if there was no cop there, the dude from Nigeria would have tried to kill him. You can just see it in his eyes. So this is going on in a hotel in New York City, and they are
full of migrants. It's a migrant hotel.
Right. Absolutely.
They've taken over this hotel and filled it up with these guys and these goons to run herd over the public. Anybody sniffing around.
Right. So I believe it's Aero Security. So what's interesting about this company is their symbol looks a lot like the Pizzagate symbol. Seriously.
Oh, did you see the speaking of Pizzagate? Did you see the story where the ABC reporter that basically deep six the whole Pizzagate story?
Yes. Yeah.
Has been arrested for child pornography and raping young.
There seems to be a lot of that going on now.
Yeah.
Right. Like this high strange stuff, like the guy who was the activist poet, right? Like, fervently embracing like this new reality, and he gets stabbed to death. Right. That just happened. You had this other guy where was he from? I think it was from Philadelphia. And he was another one of these activists and a journalist activist, clearly on, the other team. And he got filled with 7 bullets.
Yeah, then that woman got basically assaulted and raped by a black guy that just released from prison.
Right. There's another one. Right. So these things are starting to come home to roost now.
Because they're kind of commonplace. That's the problem.
Well, it is. It is a problem. But I think the frequency matters, right? Especially as it starts to chip down into the so-called left or the liberal community. And are they just going to double down? Is that what?
Yeah, they're not. See, the liberals are not spared the repercussions of all this stuff.
No.
They live in these same communities. It's just that they're clueless because they can't connect the dots about the Clow and Piven strategy and the impact of all this stuff. They just think it's not going to touch anybody or have any effect, and they're completely wrong, even on a personal level when it applies to them.
Right.
So they've made a huge mistake, and it seems like that we should watch this clip of that governor Hoshin. Let's watch that one. Hochul.
Hold on a second. I just want to go through these. Through this Aero Security. And again, if you're familiar with symbols that kind of look like pedo stuff, I'm not saying it is, but What's interesting about Aero Security
or
is
Freemason triangles.
they're not very diverse. You got AJ Caro, who's the CEO, 20 years private investigator, Department of Defense. He's got a clearance with the DOD. Okay, that's the guy who runs this company. Then you got this guy and private investigator, 9/11 responder, Peter Curcio, chief operating officer. And you got this guy, chief financial officer.
Some more grifters, making money on this whole.
They all look very white and privileged, if you ask me. Let's see, you got a guy with 23-year career with Honeywell in electronic security and safety. One of these guys used to run the prison system.
And then there was defense industry, military industrial complex,
right.
Surveillance.
Yep. Security industry, blah, 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 blah.
So they go and hire a bunch of Africans to do the security on this stuff.
Right. Or they'll hire, here's a guy, a Navy Reserve, Operation Desert Storm. There's a lot of NYPD connections here too. And Eric Adams used to be a cop with the NYPD. So I'm sure that these guys have inside connections with Eric Adams, and they're getting these contracts to protect these hotels, right? And they're all, look, not a lot of diversity here.
No, except for their employees.
Right.
They're not going to hire any white guys.
Well, no. Anyway, this is Aero Security. And I had somebody respond to my tweet about those guys. And he said, I've been in the security industry for years, private security, you name it. And he said, it is the bottom of the barrel job. And a lot of those guys can't get jobs anywhere else. The guys on the street, that's what we saw, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what they can get.
Yeah, well, they come to this country and they got a job, paycheck, so they're on board. Got a whole.
Look, I empathize with the fact that these. I mean, look, do you want them working for Aero Security, or do you want them hijacking your house? I mean, it's a heavy philosophical question.
Yeah.
Right. But it's just bad optics. It's terrible optics. They're telling somebody who has a First Amendment right to stand on the sidewalk and videotape the hotel. That's why the cop didn't do anything. He was fully within his rights. And you have these jackboot thugs who are determining what those rights are in the streets of New York City. So what else you got for us, Russ?
Hochul, the Governor Hochul, we're going to listen to her change of tune.
Crazy Kathy?
Yeah.
Where is she? All right, here we go. You got some real gems here, Russ.
They're showing up. They're showing up on Twitter.
Statement encapsulates our values.
This is her 2021, 2023. Here we go.
As you know, the Statue of Liberty is inscribed. It says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled young masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse to a teeming shore. And that statement encapsulates our values. We want people to come here, despite where they came from or despite the circumstances that drove them to this country, into this state. We say you are welcome here. You're welcome with open arms, and we'll work to keep you safe. We'll not only house you, but we'll protect you. So our message to the world is, send us your people, send us those who need the cloak of comfort that we can demonstrate as New Yorkers with big hearts and open arms, and we'll provide.
It's fucking amazing how she's just talking for everyone.
Right? That's what they do. That's one of their MOs.
The hubris is just off the charts.
Yep.
At a safe haven. We have to let the word out that when you come to New York, you're not going to have more hotel rooms. We don't.
This is now.
Also, message properly that we're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. But the smarter thing is to apply for asylum before you leave your country. As you know, the Statue of Liberty is inscribed. It says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled young masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse to a teeming shore. And that statement encapsulates our values. We want people to come here, despite where they came from or despite the circumstances that.
You know what she almost said there? She almost said, despite what they've done.
Yeah.
You could hear it. You could hear it. And she changed it. She clipped it and she changed it to circumstances. Because that would have been a real interesting statement. We don't care what you've done.
She's the governor of New York putting out the welcome mat. She bears a lot of responsibility for this. People coming through the Darian Gap, wading through there.
If you have followed,
these people never face the consequences. That's the missing ingredient in this, all this stuff.
If you follow her career path, she started out as kind of a college activist. She led a protest against the bookstore. I think it was some fucking apartheid thing. And then she kind of goes on this political track. And she's kind of in the activist mode or mold. More of a conservative. She kind of like rides the Republican coattails for a while because there was some power there that she could plug into, but then she flips and becomes a Democrat and so she has absolutely no allegiance. She'll just roll with whoever's in power.
Total opportunist. Yeah.
She's terrible. She's absolutely. She's no.
We got anything on? We got anything with Mayor Adams showing him in action? We got anything up there? I see anything on that?
I played his speech last week, where the thing with Adams is that he was complaining endlessly about what was going on there. And on the 22nd of September, him and his consigliere and his other mob bosses inside the NYPD and stuff, they all went to Gracie Mansion and they all got elevated to Master Mason on 9/22.
Yeah.
And it was right out in the open, right? They're part of the Prince Hall Lodge, which generally tends to be more black. Although I think one of his right-hand guys is
if you go to I don't know what store I have it in, but I have a picture of them in their 33-degree Mason garb.
Oh yeah. I mean, that you can find that on the New York Post, right? So we can just bring that up for people. Yeah, he did it right on September 22nd. And 22 is the number of the master builder in a certain numerological system. And then 3 days later, he lays out this master plan for New York, like rebuilding New York. It's like, oh, really? Oh, he becomes a master mason on the 22nd. And now all of a sudden, he has this grand, inspiring plan to become the new builder, the great new builder of New York. Let me see if I can find it.
Here, I'll send it to you. I got it here.
I have it right here with the New York Post.
Okay.
This is what I read from, and some of the people who follow the show know that I talked about this when it happened. Did we freeze? We froze there for a second. Hold on. So let's get rid of her, whatever that is. So there you go. So they're all getting elevated, and you got a police commissioner. That's Edward Caban. Secret ceremony. It's not that secret, for crying out loud. We know about it.
We know about it, and we have taken note.
And there they are, gloves and aprons.
But there's no conspiracy here. Of course not. There's no conspiracy here.
Right. So Adams.
This is an example of the turtle on the fence post.
Look at this. Look at this. Adams, the mayor, police commissioner Caban, and chief of the department, Jeffrey Madry, they all became master masons at once. Right. Probably the three most important guys, powerful guys, in terms of order and policing. They all get elevated at the same time. They're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's all a big part of the plan.
And this is the first time this had ever been done.
They are not part of the solution at all. There'll be a solution, probably surveillance and biometrics, and there'll be a whole new industry around that, and you'll be probably the same guys that are running in the Aero group, that type of individual.
Well,
come in and get a big contract to, especially in New York. They'll probably start at New York City, start issuing biometric cards to everybody there.
One of Eric Adams', I guess you could call him a buddy. He goes to a lot of his functions. Is Eric Schmidt from Google in Alphabet?
Really?
Yes. Because Eric Adams has his fingers in the digital currency crypto world in a big way. He's probably a multi-millionaire due to crypto, which he'll never talk about. But Eric Schmidt showed up at his party when he was sworn in as mayor, and so he's got a history with Eric Schmidt. So Eric Schmidt would be somebody who'd be the brain trust to put together a biometric surveillance system in New York City.
That's a good connection, connector there.
Let me see this. There are a few things that I put in my queue.
Another one I wanted to mention is that the World Economic Forum is kind of taking over the former U.S. military bases in Panama as the migrants went through. So they have sort of like a base there for whatever.
Right. Yeah. Right. And China, yeah. So China owns part of the Panama Canal as well. Right. And they're kind of aiming to get more of an ownership stake. But I guess if the World Economic Forum is there, they could be the proxy. So we saw this guy, Eli, the people's guy, right? And he's kind of like calling out a little bit here. Now, this is a video I found. And this is a guy from Chicago. And apparently Chicago has its own version of what New York is going through.
Of course.
So let me do this.
Denver, Los Angeles, all these sanctuary cities are boiling over.
He's a little hard to understand, but he's a Chicago resident who's pissed off about what's happening. So let's hear him spit his facts.
Right? They're illegal. Right now, Brandon Johnson and the Democrats are criminals. They're locking up guys from smuggling drugs and trafficking people.
He's calling the mayor, Brandon Johnson, a criminal.
Yeah, this black community is no longer friendly towards these
I got a good one right after this. Watch this for a second.
Of course, the dry government's doing it.
They're waking up. Wake up time.
We're going to sue these bosses. We're going to sue these Democrats as civilians because God Smith, the agents represent the people they voted for. The agents. I'm a sports agent. If I don't have represent my clients, they fire me. It's time to fire. Don't let the Democrats have that stupid convention here next year. Enough's enough. All I see, right, is the citizens of Chicago marching to the gas chamber. Ever since these scumbags came across the border.
Right. So he's basically saying that based on the migration policies, this is the death of their community.
Yeah, of course. And they're right. See, they're right in the middle of it because it's a very much a not in my backyard situation.
Right.
So, I mean, I got to be honest. These minorities have a hard time dealing with that because they'll just move them right into their neighborhood, dump them into facilities there. But then once they're in there, then they come out into the suburbs and start ransacking. Then the purge begins. We're getting into kind of a purge mode.
Yeah, we are. This is the mayor of Dallas. Now, theoretically,
wow, another black guy. Wow.
Right. Theoretically, at a local level, you're not supposed to really declare politically, right? Like if you're a city council person, you're a city council person. If you're mayor, you're mayor.
So they're losing their black support, their traditional black support over this.
Let's listen to this guy, even though he doesn't have to declare his party status. Here he goes.
He was not going to be a Democrat anymore. He's going to switch to a Republican.
Yeah, that's right. So the switch makes Dallas now the nation's largest city with a Republican mayor.
In a Fox and Friends exclusive, I had the chance to talk with the newly Republican mayor on his decision. Take a look.
The 60th mayor of the great city of Dallas, my friend, Mayor Johnson.
So, Mayor, you just made this big decision. You switched parties. I guess the question is, why?
The reality is there's a really big gap at this point in time between who I am, what's important to me, what I'm about, and where the Democratic Party is and what's important to them and what they're about. And that's really come to a head since I've become the mayor. Very soon after the whole defund the police nonsense started, activists showed up at my house trying to intentionally scare my family, scare my children, scare me into changing my very clear position that we were not going to do that in Dallas. And that really was sort of the eye-opener in terms of this party is really serious about protecting the criminal element over the law-abiding folks, and that they weren't really going to change.
I remember going around the country covering all these different protests.
Yeah.
And I remember they tried to shut the bridge down in Dallas. You stood with the cops when a lot of Democratic mayors were anti-cop at the moment. And you stood firm. Why?
Because I am a person of the people. I'm one of the people. I grew up in those communities. I know actually what the people over there want. They told me what they wanted. They want to live in a safe neighborhood, and they don't want the police to leave. They want more police. They want those police to be trained well. They want them to be practitioners of community policing, but they want them there. They didn't want the police department defunded. If I felt like you could actually be a true law and order, fiscally responsible Democrat, I would have done that. I tried that. You can. I'm living proof that you end up on an island isolated in that party if you try to do that.
You're not just the mayor of a top 10 major city that is now Republican, but you're a black man. So I guess the elephant in the room is, how is the community responding to their guy now being a Republican?
I actually believe that in time, they're going to start to ask themselves, why are we still Democrats? We trust him. He's never let us down. I believe that this is actually going to be a beginning in Dallas of black folk from the communities I've represented for so long saying, we need to give the Republican Party a look, especially today.
What is your message to the voter that's out here that's teetering, but they don't know if they can cross over to the Republican Party?
Get past the sound bites and get past the personalities and be honest with yourself about what's important to you.
This is about to be a big race in 2024. A lot of candidates in the race. Donald Trump seems to be the one that's leading the pack right now. Do you plan on weighing in on at any point?
Well, I don't plan on endorsing. I've been very clear about that.
I think we've got the gist of this.
Yeah. Now what's this one? This one I just sent you right here. Let's take a look at this. The last item.
Did you put it in Twitter?
Yeah, DM.
While I cue this up, do you believe he's sincere?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's just logical.
Yeah.
If he really, if he's not a stooge, if he's not a turtle on the fence post like so many of these others are, if he's sincere,
right?
Halfway normal human being. I mean, it just seems it's logical. It's rational. But what's this crowd here on this Hot Atlanta situation? They're responding to a shooting. Please.
Hey, welcome, look. Go.
You. He want to know what he looks like. He looks like you.
It ain't him. Let's go.
Get your white face out of here. Your kind just suck this shit up. That's the lead. Let him get in his car. They not letting him. Do not stand right here. Don't stand right here. You don't. Get your white face out of here. You gonna do something tonight? Get your ass out of here. You gonna do something tonight? Or you gonna knock the fuck out? Hey, get the fuck out of here. See, Smith? Get back, bro. It's your time, bro. You just shut this shit up. Hey, get the fuck out of here, man. That shit make him happy. Leave him alone. Roll the window, ass nigga, bro.
It ain't safe for no white people. Go get you some donuts and get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Leave this man alone. I just said leave this man alone.
Who driving this car
right now? They don't shot somebody. Let him come here help.
So what's the point of this one?
Well, they hate the white police. Get the hell out of here.
Right.
Whitey.
Right.
Leave.
Yeah.
So there's just it's a service call on a shooting there in that community.
Right.
And he shows up and you can kind of see his partner, a black lady, and they just start railing on him and run the white policeman off. Well, that's not a good situation.
No. So they responded to a shooting. Is that what they did?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these areas, like what, some of these areas are they're just going to become no-go zones.
Yeah.
Right. That's what's going to happen. And I guess Atlanta hasn't had their dose of their newly found diversity yet. Right. They haven't brought a bunch of people in there. It'll be interesting to see how the quote unquote migrants are integrated, especially the crime side, right? Because we know that there's organized crime at so many levels, whether it's political or even down to the streets, right? Like they're organized gangs. And will we see kind of a new fusion of organized gangs and organized crime from other countries beginning to join forces with organized crime in this country, right? Or these organized gangs? That's something that concerns me. Like when you see somebody from a blue collar neighborhood, like that guy in Chicago, he's not a gangbanger, right? Those gangbangers aren't looking for jobs. They're either looking to consolidate their power and hold their turf or get more turf. Now, the new elements might pose a threat to them.
Well, absolutely, because there's a real tendency for tribalism. So when you start mixing all these people together, just bringing in Venezuelans, they're going to form gangs, and they're going to
always happens.
Always happens. Now, I just reran this article, and it's really a great article. I just reread it, and it's entitled. Let me go through this. It won't take too long because it really proves the point. It's titled "Vietnam's Operation Passage to Freedom Proved the Destructive Nature of Mass Migrations." I said, superficially, it looked like a wise scheme to the planners. In the wake of France's 1954 defeat in Vietnam, the U.S. and France transported and resettled around 1 million Vietnamese Catholics from their ancestral homes in North Vietnam to South Vietnam, where they were dropped off with few resources. The mass location is a prima facie example of the huge downside of mass migration, any mass migration. So these are all Vietnamese. But one group is Catholic, and the rest of them are what? Buddhist.
Right.
They all speak the same language, but the causa proxima of the failure of this operation lies in the concept of social ecology or social trust. which is decimation by uprooting and dumping people in mass. This applies both to the people moved and to the people on the receiving end. In the wake of the French defeat, beside the fate of French Indochina, the Accords resulted in the partition of Vietnam, with the Ho Chi Minh Communist Viet Minh in control of the north and the French-backed state of Vietnam in the south. The agreements allowed a 300-day period of grace in which people could move freely between the two Vietnams before the border was sealed. The parties had given little thought to the logistics, but a psychological operation under the notorious Colonel Lansdale advised Diem that it was imperative to maximize the anti-communist population of the South in preparation for the national reunification elections. When Diem noted that the limited ability of the South to absorb refugees, Lansdale assured him that the U.S. would bear the burden. Diem then authorized Lansdale to launch an audacious propaganda scare campaign. Surveys of the immigrants suggest that they were largely content to follow the recommendation of the local priest, who the U.S. targeted. By early August 1954, there were more than 200,000 evacuees waiting in Hanoi and Haiphong. Few had any identification. Initially, the ad hoc camps had insufficient sanitation and water quality control, leading to a possibility of outbreaks of diseases. Some American representatives said they were the worst conditions they'd ever seen. There was no organization infrastructure as far as registration or medical records and the immunization of waiting evacuees. The communists sent their propaganda activists through the camps and said that the lack of organization proved that life for the prospective refugees would be even worse in the South, where they were completely under the control of South Vietnam. Ultimately, this warning turned out to be correct and caused serious discontent and demoralization for South Vietnam. The U.S. Department of Defense ordered the U.S. Navy to mobilize an evacuation task force, and the first ship left Haiphong carried about 2,000 refugees. By the time the migration was over in mid-55, the South Vietnamese government calculated that about 1 million refugees were relocated, of whom 98.3% were ethnic Vietnamese. The report said that 85 engaged in farming and fishing for their livelihood, and 85 were Catholics. 85% were Catholic. Big humanitarian issues. The new Northerners were housed in Saigon and Vung Tau in 42 makeshift reception centers. These consisted of existing schools, vacated barracks, churches, a race course. As part of the second phase, temporary villages were built, and by mid-55, most of the 1 million refugees were living in rows of temporary housing settlements, primarily near highways leading out of Saigon, in provinces adjacent to the capital. The largest concentration of housing in the second stage was located to the north of the capital. Only a minority could be sent to the fertile Mekong Delta, as that area was already overcrowded. So they started to disperse them. So this is kind of what we're coming up on now. So now they got the sanctuary cities in the United States. The third phase of the resettlement involved the dispersion of new arrivals from temporary villages and regions surrounding the capital and other large cities. The areas where the refugees had initially were oversettled, where the population had doubled during the migration period. In the crowded provinces, there were fear of social unrest due to shortage of work. Smaller groups of Northern Catholics were shipped to the Central Highlands and encroached upon land held by the Montagnard, indigenous people. As a result, the indigenous population began to support and fight for the Viet Cong. Believing the Northern Catholics to be a bastion of solid anti-communist support, President Diem, who was a Catholic himself, proceeded to treat his new constituents as a special interest group. In the long run, the Northern Catholics never fully integrated into Southern society, and Diem's favoritism towards them caused tension that culminated in the Buddhist crisis of 1963, which ended in the downfall and assassination of Diem. With entire Catholic provinces moving south en masse In 1956, the Diocese of Saigon had more Catholics than Paris and Rome. Of Vietnam's 1.45 million Catholic minority, over 1 million lived in the South, of whom 55% were northern refugees. The mass influx of refugees presented severe social strains for South Vietnam.
Yeah.
The new arrivals need to be integrated with jobs and housing. Long periods of tents and temporary housing would sap morale and fostered pro-communist sympathy. So, to make a long story short, you can see where I'm going. This movement of this group of people completely destabilized South Vietnam and led to the Vietnam War.
Right. And how many of those people who profess to be Catholics were really Catholics, but in reality, they were North Vietnamese sleeper cells?
Well,
right?
they were a Trojan horse.
Of course they were. Yeah. So I wanted to play this video. It's a good corollary, Russ. I wanted to play this video, and it's this guy who is playing the video. So we're going sort of 2 levels deep. So we're commenting on his video that he's commenting on. I don't have the original video. But the thing that's interesting about this video is that the young guy who's commenting on this is a young black male, right? So he's looking at what's happening in New York City. And you can see the gears turning in his head, just like you can see the gears turning very quickly, or hear them turning quickly on from the guy Eli on the streets of New York. So there's something interesting happening in the black community, right? They're getting a rude awakening about what's going on, and in many ways, this group that's coming in is being treated better than they are. And just watch how well they're treated. Let me play
Well, see, now the one I gave you, example I gave you, they were all Vietnamese, and look at the trouble they had just from being different part of the country and different. So imagine bringing a bunch of Venezuelans in and dumping them near these black neighborhoods.
All right, listen. So this is Life with Reels. That's his name. And he's going to be playing a video of this guy here in the corner. So
Yeah, they can't possibly support this stuff.
Let's go through this a little
back
bit.
with another video. Y'all can see in the title what's going on here. If y'all seen the last video that I posted, it had Carlos in it, was talking about, different things that, I try to watch my words and stuff from being censored. But if y'all seen the video I dropped yesterday, then y'all know who Carlos was. This is another video of him actually going into detail of different things that's going on.
So Carlos was working in one of these hotels where the immigrants or migrants, whatever you want to call them, are living. So he's gonna spill the dirt here. He's gonna bring the tea. So this is who he is
in New York. But definitely make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button. Other videos you want me to check out, make sure y'all comment down below. Email me, lifeforreckless@yahoo.com, or DM me on Instagram, lifeforreckless. Let's get in the video.
New York City, the thriving and fast-paced metropolis, is currently in a state of emergency as over 60,000 illegal immigrants have made their way into the area. Mayor Eric Adams has recently declared that 50% of the hotels in the city are now filled with migrants. And for the first time, we're getting an exclusive look at the inside of one of these hotels looks like. We sat down with whistleblower Carlos Arellano, who worked inside the Row NYC for the past.
And I do appreciate the person that sent me this, because I did have that question of what is going on inside these hotels and what did it look like. So definitely appreciate you for that.
7 months. This hotel, located 1 block from Times Square, previously rented rooms for $500 a night. Carlos shares it is now the largest migrant hotel in New York City.
So in the hotel, we have close to 5,000 migrants. It hovers between 4,800 to 5,000. It's the biggest hotel out there that's housing migrants. They housed 5,000 people together in 28 floors.
You have the NYC badge, so you're a city employee, correct?
Yes, I was a side administrator at the Row Hotel. Anything involving this hotel, I was helping run it.
One of the first stops migrants make when they are bussed in is the Port Authority bus station. It's at this station that they are first dropped off assigned a hotel, and sent to locations such as the Row NYC. So when a migrant comes to the hotel, what does the process look like?
They're taken to our intake center, which is they just register their names, how many kids, and they give them rooms. With our medical team is where they determine if they need certain vaccinations, which are usually turned down by the migrants. They don't want them. But a lot of the times they will have some kind of sickness to them, and that's when they're Ubered out to hospitals that work with the migrant hotels. Everything ranging from doctor's visits to medication is paid for the migrants.
I believe we have a document where car seats can also be provided for the migrants as well, correct?
Yes, car seats, cribs for newborns. There's, I want to say, at least 2 to 3 babies a week being born at this hotel.
Do you hear that? 2 to 3 babies a week being born at the hotel.
This is this Vietnam template because they started having outbreaks too. They had outbreaks of disease and started to affect the whole community, the whole country.
They didn't want any vaccinations. That's interesting, isn't it?
Well, you got to get vaccinated for some of these tropical stuff. Come on, Jesus!
But they didn't.
This isn't COVID. There's something else, you know.
He just said 2 to 3 babies a week being born at the hotel.
I want to say at least 2 to 3 babies a week being born at this hotel.
At the hotel, not at the hotel. 2 to 3 babies.
On top of free medical care and transportation, Carlos also shares that the migrants receive laundry services, housekeeping, and 3 meals a day alongside their hotel rooms.
So the migrants don't trust the
Anything
system,
you can
right?
possibly think of, it's being given to them. Around 200 through 300 Metro cards a day are given for free. ID services, you know, ID NYC, they have IDs from the city of New York.
And what can they do with those IDs?
Well, a lot of people in this hotel are working with that ID. Aside from that, they're receiving, I've seen food stamps, cards arrive, a lot of services that are provided to them just for having this ID.
And then my other question for you too is, how much does it cost per day to feed these migrants?
So in our hotel, it's $383 for 5,000 people. And that's just for 1 day worth of meals.
In January of this year, it was reported that...
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
$383 per person per day.
Yep. A lot of favoritism and
5,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a small town living in that hotel.
So these poor blacks are going to be pissed as hell, of course.
This is what I'm saying. Like, you have this whole group of people that are jumping the queue, right? And they're getting benefits that a lot of Americans don't receive. It gets worse. Listen to this.
Mayor Eric Adams.
I want y'all to hear that again.
$383 for 5,000 people. And that's just for 1 day worth of meals.
1 day.
In January of this year, it was reported that Mayor Eric Adams...
On our text? Hold on, bro.
He's having a wake-up moment.
We paying for that?
We all live in America, America.
You know,
he's getting a wake-up moment, Russ.
But
it's like the Rammstein song. We all live in America.
$383.
$383. That's for five. How many? You said 5,000?
For 5,000 people.
5,000 people, and that's for 1 day.
And that's just for 1 day worth of meals.
In January of this year, it was reported that Mayor Eric Adams signed a $275 million contract that would fund the migrants staying in hotels across the city for the next 6 months, a budget of around $55,000 per migrant. However, the city is running out of hotel rooms, with Adams stating that some hotels don't want to shelter migrants. Carlos provided us with an inside look at the Row NYC that may give us some insight as to why.
The migrants being in those hotels have destroyed them. There's a lot of alcohol in these rooms. Housekeeping is there all week, and they'll clean it. And by the end of the night, there's kids getting drunk together. There's people hooking up with each other. I even have seen reports of certain managers who are using this to get intimate with people. It seems like the hotel is one big party.
Wow.
There's multiple guns in these rooms as well. The alarming thing is that this hotel is meant to be a family hotel. One situation that I'll never forget was I was on my lunch break and I was at Walgreens, and while I was in line, I saw one of the migrants sticking alcohol into their children's backpack.
Wow.
And they stick them in the children's backpack because they know we wouldn't dare to check a child's backpack. They do this kind of stuff all the time, whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol, whether it be a gun. They stick it in the strollers, under the baby.
During just our short time investigating the location outside of the hotel, we ourselves witnessed a migrant so drunk he could barely stand. But alcohol isn't the only issue at the Row
Bro, look at this, bro.
NYC. Carlos shared incident reports and internal text messages detailing gunmen on the premises, children getting drunk, and migrants stealing from local businesses surrounding the hotel. You were actually showing me some text messages between a social worker about a drunk 10-year-old in this hotel. Can you talk?
This video only been on for 5 minutes. A drunk, bro, how old?
To us about what happened there. Bro. Yeah, it was a drunk 10-year-old who was caught with a 14 and a 12-year-old, and all three of them were intoxicated.
Wow.
And when we looked them up in the system, the parents had checked out 2 days ago.
So their parents just left them there?
Yeah, the parents will leave the kids unattended in the hotel, and they think it's okay to leave for a day or two, sometimes even a week.
And you actually did provide us with a couple of incident reports. Let's go ahead and go over some of them, specifically the incident report where you have gunmen walking around the hotel. Talk to me about that situation.
We heard a security guard start yelling, there's a gun on site, there's a gun on site. It was probably an upset person that we had kicked out of the hotel, and it sent the whole hotel into a panic. And
bro, see, y'all got all this going on. I ain't even trying to be mean or rude or nothing like that, but we got all this going on. We got bro, it's so much stuff, bro, that we going through, and it's stuff that like this that we got to deal with because you mad because you over here and you getting kicked and you bringing a gun trying to kill. See, this is the type of stuff. This is the type of stuff that a lot of people not realizing. I'm glad I seen this video.
We had kicked out of the hotel, and it sent the whole hotel into a panic. And this is an everyday thing. I myself have been assaulted. I've seen other people get assaulted. I've had threats saying, we'll be waiting for you guys outside. There's been times where staff has had to be, escorted to their cars, to their trains.
Because the migrants are threatening them.
Yeah.
And why is that happening?
Because they want to get away with doing whatever the hell they want to do inside the hotels. There's one incident. It was my very first week working in this hotel, and it was a husband who was beating up his wife. It was my job and others' jobs to separate them. The brother of the husband shows up and starts telling the wife, why would you report him? Now they're going to kick him out of the hotel and deport him out of the country, which didn't happen. And then the brother rushes in and hits the wife on the face as well.
And as the hotel staff, what were you guys able to do with these two?
The solution always is, they're intoxicated, send them to the hospital to sober up, and then they come right back into the hotel. It's either the hospital or it's either send them to Port Authority and let the husband who's intoxicated get another hotel paid by the taxpayers of New York. Often at times there was migrants causing chaos, but with shoplifting, the one instant where I showed you that video, aside from being caught shoplifting, they started getting physical and a lot.
Hold on now. You ain't about to get me demonetized. You want to act a fool. I'm sorry, y'all.
The hotel.
We also spoke to the manager of the store right next to Row, who shared how the migrants have been affecting businesses in the area.
So there was previously tourists staying in this hotel, and now it's migrants. So you're not having the same amount of business coming through this area.
No, same. It's totally down, less than 50% the down. So I'm not against. I told you I'm not against them, but I don't like to our business area. Take them another area, side of
NIMBY. There we
not
go.
the middle of the city. We are
Send them up to
we are the
Central
business-
Highlands.
Not only my store, all area business is down.
And he's not even trying to be mean though, and he's not even saying to his store. He's saying all the stores around, just coming over and just tearing everything down. That's crazy.
All of
All in this area.
Oh,
you know,
nonsense.
3-4 areas they are business. You can ask any people, they'll say no, business is down here.
On top of the violence, guns, and drug and alcohol abuse, Carlos shares that the infrastructure of the hotel is also starting to crumble.
I want to go to
This
New York City. I
hotel
don't look
is
like I'm
pretty
going.
much collapsing. One thing
Stay right here in Indianapolis.
that I saw was the maintenance requests.
They're coming to your town, buddy.
In these maintenance
Right.
requests,
I don't even like it here.
it ranged from mold in the ceilings to mold in the walls to power outages in 10 rooms in one floor. The electrical infrastructure in this hotel is fried. We have everything from power outages to fires going off. The lobby ceiling, we've had that fall. And it's been flat out said by every agency in that hotel that they're just waiting for it to collapse. But the city does not want to start the process of getting them out because it's 5,000 people. So it's either going to start a riot or during the riot, it's going to collapse the hotel.
Man, listen, this ain't gonna be the first riot, bro. Something gotta happen. Something gotta give. All these excuses ain't gonna do it. I'm sorry. It's
So
a
we
lot
quit
of stuff.
there?
And I ain't
I got-
trying to be
you got
mean.
the idea, Robert.
Mess-
You know, the thing is that one of the accusations being made is that quote unquote Texas is sending all these people there. Well, the actual statistics are 85% of the people going to New York as a sanctuary city are being flown in by Biden.
Interesting.
The rest of them are being bussed in by Texas.
Right. Well, they're asked where they want to go.
Yeah, and they got the
They're
word.
asked, and if they say we want to go to New York, look, I think they should send them back. That's just my one man's opinion, right? So furthering them into the country, dispersing them all over the country.
No, it didn't work for Vietnam, and Vietnam ended up with essentially a civil war.
Yeah, it's a distribution
They
plan.
got potatoes. But I mean, the migration of people and the settlement of peoples has always been a big issue. You know, it was a big problem in World War II.
Yeah.
You know, then they end up interning people.
Right. I mean, migration has always been a really interesting subject, right? Like prior to World War II, you had a massive migration of Black Americans moving out of the South and going to places like Chicago and Detroit and even out to the West Coast, like LA and San Francisco and Oakland. And, you know, those had some very interesting effects on people and the economy, right? A lot of those families that moved out of the South got involved in the auto industry and became, you know, kind of these frontline auto workers, which hadn't been there before. So migration always poses very interesting challenges, and you know, this one is this isn't good. But I'll tell you, the young guy watching the video is getting a wake-up call, right? He's seeing what's happening, and he just happens to be a young Black dude. What did we see in Dallas? You had a Black mayor flip his political allegiance. You know, what did you see? I mean, you're just starting to see this now.
Yeah, because it's too close to home.
It's starting to galvanize certain interests together, which hadn't been galvanized, right? Like party politics had driven a wedge between people. And now all of a sudden people are looking at this going, you know, we now have something in common that we didn't have before. And I think that's going to be one of the more interesting stories that comes out of this.
Yeah.
Then you got Europe, which is what about in Czech Republic? Are you guys taking refugees in?
No, I don't. I hate to even say it on our show how great this country is, because afraid a bunch of people start moving in here. This is like a refuge. It's not nearly the shitstorm that the U.S. is. The contrast is stark.
Yeah.
Now the rest of Europe, it's been a problem. I have this article. I should probably go over this a little bit. The human smuggling industry. Let's talk about who's behind this stuff.
All right, let me find it. Let me go to your website and find it.
Yeah, it's on the front page, I think.
The Mara Salvatrucha. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the October 2nd.
Okay. Oh, right. You had this link. Yeah. Let's check this out.
So, I mean, the African migrant situation is, I mean, they have huge populations down there. They're growing very, very fast, and that could go global. And it seems like it's spilling over into the United States, and it's a threat. It's a threat to Europe. The Ukrainian refugee thing. The Czech Republic has absorbed a lot of Ukrainians, but it's just different because they're Eastern European. They're white. They're Slavic.
Yeah.
There's some resentment towards them because they kind of get benefits that kind of the same thing that this guy's talking about, but their behaviors aren't as bad. They're just not that bad of people.
Right.
So then they
the biggest human traffickers seem to be the UN.
The UN, in fact, even the UN admits that 71% of migration stem from trafficking operations, but the UN has set up this big organization to aid migrants.
That's right.
And so my theory is that you probably have these same usual suspect foundations that pour their money into different front organizations, like they take over the Salvation Army. I mean, they're very, very tricky about it. There's multiple organizations.
Catholic
charities, right? So 90% of all migrants that reach the EU have used the facilitation services of a migrant smuggling network. These crime networks are taking mass profits from mass migration. Europe's Migrant Smuggling Center gathered information on 17,400 new migrant smugglers. In addition to the countless number already operating inside Europe, gangs of smugglers often package deals on Facebook that lure migrants into paying thousands of dollars to reach Europe. Okay, we have the story of the Istanbul that the Daily Mail ran of the Istanbul Bogota flight. $10,000 to get set up. They're paying somebody. Well, where are they getting the $10,000 from?
$10,000 is not easy to come by unless you're selling drugs or women.
You're from Nigeria, right? Yeah, or maybe you're smuggling something.
Could be.
Yeah, kind of a mule, or I mean, I got an email from one of your people that asked me that very question: who's paying this $10,000?
Oh yeah, that was from Sherlyn.
Yeah, I don't really have an answer. What do you think? These foundations is usually
here's what I think. A lot of what you're seeing here is you're dealing with also money laundering operations, because there's huge amounts of money that go through like the drug cartels, and the drug cartels they're not independent. They're part of an octopus. It's connected with a bunch of illicit activities, right?
Yeah.
They got to do something with the money. That's what they've got to do. They got to do something with the money. So you pay somebody $10,000 to come to the U.S. or go to Europe, and if you come through the U.S. and the southern border, you belong to the cartel. Now you're a mule. Now you're a point of distribution on the other side. which happens, by the way. So that's where I think they're getting a lot of this money. This is laundered money, and who knows? Maybe some of it's getting washed through Ukraine. We don't know. We don't know where any of this money goes. So the answer to your question, where do they get $10,000? I think the majority of it's probably laundered, and then they're beholden. This happens. I mean, I just read an article before the show where they were in one of these migrant hotel rooms, and they found 95 pounds of methamphetamine. Where do they get 95 pounds of methamphetamine?
Well, that's what Interpol said. Interpol said, in principle, the relationship between smuggler and migrant ends once the individual arrives in the new country. However, there's evidence that people smugglers continue to exploit migrants through threats and demands for additional fees. In some cases, the smugglers force them to work for years in the illegal labor market to pay off the debts incurred as a result of. So they're setting up a new slave market.
A new slave market, new crime network.
And what kind of controls are there in the Darian Gap?
I want to know what kind of controls are in the hotel that Aero Security is guarding. Like, what are they doing in there? That one hotel, the Row, clearly has serious issues in terms of just housing these people. But I also feel like there's hidden agendas going on here. Like, they're picking people out of these groups, right? And they're picking people out of these groups, and then they're redirecting them to other areas, and they're getting very specific training, right? And some of that training, ultimately, I think, is geared towards being used against us. Like, they have assembled a migrant army.
It's a Trojan horse.
Absolutely.
And, the other aspect, I mean, if you notice these people coming through Panama, a lot of women and children.
Well, it said three kids a week are being born there.
Well, New York,
just in that one hotel.
Yeah, and they're being born along the trek up there too, through Central America and Mexico, however they get in there. Right. But I have a feeling that if you look at about half the people going through the Darian Gap are women and children. We should probably take a look at some of the clips of people coming through the border. In fact, we haven't even looked at that.
They're not women and children.
They're not. What's happening? What's happening to the women and the children on the track?
I mean, we don't have to go to the clips. I know for a fact. I've seen the refugees come through the border. Dude, woman, dude. You're right. I mean, where do they go?
I mean, how much organ harvesting is going on?
Yeah, that's a whole. That's a whole other.
How much sex trafficking is going on? Like these Venezuelan women are very good looking. These Colombian women are, they're nice looking women.
Yeah, they don't have that indigenous look. And don't get me wrong, there are some indigenous women I'm sure look fine.
Yeah, they're mixed race.
They're mixed. A lot of them come from European strain background, right? So yeah, you're right. They look different. I mean, there's so many bad variables here, but I'm on the same page with you. I mean, we looked at all those women coming across the Darian Gap. They're not the same people that are crossing the Mexican border. Not. Maybe some of them are, but not the women.
Yeah, well, you got the Central Americans can get to the border without going through the Gap. So yeah, the Gap is the clue because that's South Americans and Africans and whatnot. So I don't think a lot of the children and women are making it.
No,
I don't know exactly how it works or how I mean, I'm going to continue to follow the story. And looking for.
Well, it's right now. It's the story. It's the story of our time, with the forced migrations around the planet.
I mean, I wrote a story about all the femicide going on in Juarez, Mexico. where they're just grabbing these girls off the street and torturing and murdering them. Thousands of them over the last decade. So there's a whole, it's called the Barrio Azteca. And they're the worst human beings on the planet, and they really exploit women and brutalize women. It's just part of their deal.
Have you heard about the rape tree?
Where was that? That's at the border area, right?
The border, right? There's a reason why they call it the rape tree.
Right.
It's the last thing. It's the last thing they do before they send them across the border.
I mean, I'm sorry we're kind of bringing this kind of stuff up, but we can't go through life just watching football.
Right.
Got to get engaged.
We're entering into a period that resembles a movie called Children of Men, which is extremely dystopic. And in that movie, there's a huge quote unquote refugee crisis. And they actually wind up ultimately creating like these towns. They used to be towns, but they're like more like ruins really that these refugees are consigned to. And they're gated and guarded, and like it's a very, very dark film. But you could make a case that we're not that far from it, right? Like, what would happen if somebody came along who was kind of a strong man, and then all of a sudden they said, "Yeah, we're just going to round these people up, and we're just going to put them in these camps," right?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what the Nazis did.
Yeah,
the Nazis were suffering from a lot of. I mean, people don't know this story, but there's a bunch of Polish Jews that had gone into the Weimar Republic before Hitler came to power, and they kept trying to get him out of there. And finally, they just loaded up on trains and dropped him off at the border, and that really incensed relations with Poland. So Poland got really upset with Germany. Up to then, the relationships weren't that bad until they started dumping Jewish illegals off on them. It's kind of like you came from Poland, you're going back to Poland, and so that just entered into the mix of problems on this stuff. Stuff's a little bit more complex than most people think. It's just let's watch this one. Border Patrol cuts barbed wire fence to allow migrants to enter the United States. Let's go to that one. Take a look at this. Let's see what's going on at the border. In the DM.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Yeah, I found it.
Yeah, we're really.
You know what this guy doesn't understand? He doesn't understand that within 3 years, he won't have that job.
He'd be replaced by that African guy up there in New York.
he'll be replaced by somebody, right, that doesn't look like him.
Yeah, he's a white guy.
He is whistling through the graveyard right now.
Yeah, you can go a little bit forward. You can see who comes through the wire. Here they come. On this way. Now, the rule is that once they get to the U.S. side across that river, they're supposed to detain them. So in a way, he's required to open it up, and they detain him.
He's gonna wave him over.
Yeah, come on through. It's the law. They have to detain him once they're on the U.S. side.
Hey, hola.
Hey,
hola,
hola.
amigos. Aquí.
Hola, amigo. Aquí.
Hello. Welcome to the United States of America.
The men are big.
They don't miss too many meals.
No, they're big, strong guys.
Yeah. Anybody need any Gatorade? You got some Gatorade?
Look like Mexicans. Mexicans aren't that stature.
Some are. But they're not skinny.
Weird. They're really weird. Weird scene. So that's good. The thing is, the Border Patrol is required to detain them once they get across. Now, they could just leave them there on the riverbank and throw them water until just a siege. Don't let them through. Throw water. Check on people. See if they need any medical attention. Send somebody down there to check on them, but not open up that fence and keep some guards down there and just wait it out and make them go back across the river. That'd be the easiest way to return them home. But the way our system works, that's somehow inhumane.
Right. Yeah, it's what's the term for it? It's genocidal altruism.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, put them on planes and fly them up to New York and stick them into what was once a nice hotel and just wreck the whole town. That's the solution. Because that's where they're going. Because they didn't stop them there.
Right.
They don't detain them for very long. Isn't there like a law of 30 days or something like that? 14
well, that's
days?
what happened with Trump. And then I think Biden rescinded that. And they're given court dates like 6-7 years out.
And like just load them up. So where do you want to go? New York City, and load them up on planes and fly them up there. And then start rumors saying that Texas sent them up there, which is another lie. So it's just layer after layer of obfuscations.
The problem here is, and has been, making it so where they are, where they're living, is reasonable, better than what it is.
Or just don't do any harm. Don't sanction these countries. Just don't do harm.
That's part of it. I mean, that's part of the issue, right?
Yeah.
Or don't bomb the shit out of them,
right?
Or
start wars. Don't sanction them. Just because when you sanction Venezuela, these are the people you're hurting. And so they become desperate.
So the other side of this too is a lot of these countries are burdened with debt from the World Bank.
Right.
Right. Like if you really wanted to end this, you zero out their debt.
Yep. That's big part of it.
You zero out their debt. You rescind the deals that they made, that they signed their resources over for perpetuity, right? Which is John Perkins used to run those deals, right? Diary of an Economic Hitman. Everybody knows the model. So if you want those countries to get a reasonable start, you just level the debt, take away the resource clause, and then try to help them so that their standard of living is raised. And invest in some infrastructure, help them with their own production. Don't pull a Niger where you're basically running a pipeline through their country and they're not getting anything, right? And they're looking around going, why the fuck are you doing this? We're not getting anything out of this, right?
Yeah,
So that's that.
And then you wonder why we have migrants going up to Europe and now the United States.
Right. I mean, a lot of these cases, look, just look at Libya. Libya under Gaddafi was a very reasonable place.
That was one of the greatest crimes of the century.
Absolutely.
That was just horrible. That lies right in France's and the United States. That's a Hillary Clinton project.
Totally. Hillary, here's what was going on with that server. They were running the proxy war through her server. That's what was going on. All the Libya stuff, all the stuff that was ISIS, ISIL, all the shit that they created, right? They created that stuff. And it was all through Hillary Clinton's proxy server.
And the problem with the American people is they're so consumed with entertainment that they have no foresight. They don't have any ability to foresee the future of some of these actions, which takes a while.
We're gonna pay for it now, unfortunately.
Yeah. It takes a while. It doesn't happen while you're doing it. While you're, ravishing Libya, taking out Gaddafi. The impact isn't immediate. It's later, compound.
Right. And they leveled Libya. Before, Libya was very livable. Gaddafi treated his people extremely well.
And not only that, Gaddafi was giving a lot of aid to the sub-Saharan areas. But they didn't like that because he got influenced that way.
He was going to have his dinar, right? It was going to be his dinar, the one currency, the one gold-backed currency for all of Africa. They didn't want that at all. Plus, Libya has an incredible. They did. I don't know what it's like now. Incredible aquifer system,
right? And then
they bombed it, and the water is probably all poison and toxic now. And you got a bunch of people who were there, and who takes over in a situation like that? You have the radical extreme clerics, and they don't make anybody's life any fun, right? So, they just fucked that up. And now you got a bunch of people from there, from Afghanistan, Iraq, you name it, the dumping grounds of the neocons, right? Those are all neocon horror stories in those countries.
So the people running these migrations are these foundations and NGOs,
right?
And we could show our audience a key figure. Her name is Barbara Specter.
I've played this many times before. I never get tired of it because because they tell you exactly what they were planning on doing this whole time.
Yeah, organized. Very organized.
You go back to the video. The video is getting harder to find, by the way.
But the videos of all the migrants swarming over the border is not so hard to find now.
Okay, so this is 8 years ago. 8 years ago, a lot of my people are familiar with this video because I've played it a number of times. They're telling you exactly what they're going to do.
And this lady is a spokesman for these organizations. She's a key actor. Obviously, she's not the right one writing out all the checks to make it happen, but she's got backers.
You know what's really interesting about this video is the beginning here. And I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I want to stop it when they get to this one point.
As we heard, there are people in Sweden who support Israel and have a deep sense of the injustice of the present situation.
All right. So what is going on here? Like, that is clearly a lodge. Like, that is that is a black lodge. Now, why are these guys trucking past this thing? Are they my question is, are they trying to demonstrate that Europe is on the verge of fascism, or are these guys kind of the foot soldiers for what's going on behind the black door? I don't know the answer to that question, but it was like, why have this part of the footage be a part of what comes next? Here we go.
It's these people who give hope to those who still believe that things will get better here. One of them is Barbara Spector, a former American who made Aliyah and then 10 years ago, with the help of the government of Sweden, set up a non-denominational institute of Jewish learning with the Greek name of Paideia here in Stockholm. She believes the current wave of anti-Semitism in Sweden will pass and that Jews have an important role to play in a country undergoing profound change.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century.
It's like she's taking extreme pleasure in this. You can just see it on her face.
Yeah, she's evil.
And then she's also batshit crazy. But she's telling you exactly what they were going to do 8 years ago.
Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
Paideia.
Yeah.
Predictive programming? No. Revelation of the method. She's telling you exactly what they plan on doing.
Yeah, and you know when she puts that out, the impact was just starting. You know, this is taking a while, and now it's coming to a head.
Right.
This is now we're in shitstorm time.
We're 8 years deep into that proclamation.
Yeah. Yep, and this happens fast. You can see. I mean, in closing, let's watch this one video of the people storming across the border. That's just a good one to end on.
I thought they were like trying to get Taylor Swift tickets.
Here's one. Chicago is housing hundreds of migrants at the O'Hare Airport, which is raising safety and public health concerns. Hundreds of migrants, from babies to elderly, live inside a shuttle bus center at O'Hare International Airport Terminal 1. It's like that movie with Tom Hanks.
What are they saying?
Spanish. Some of these people came a long ways. I mean, they probably would be happy.
Well, I know. I mean, you make it that far, you get here, sure. I'd be elated too.
Yep.
Yep.
But you've been weaponized.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I think lights are going to go out. I think the United States in particular is in really big trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no quick solution to this, and they haven't even tried. They haven't even made any effort. They're still cutting the barbed wire and letting them in.
How does that guy sleep at night? I mean, how does he? I mean, unless he's completely compromised.
Well, he's following the law because you got to detain him. You can't leave him out there. That's the rule. But I say leave him there on the riverbank, throw him some water, offer medical assistance, and just wait him out and make him go back across the Rio Grande.
You see that video of the people who are trying to get into Poland? You see that video?
No.
Let me see if I can find it.
They're a little tougher.
Let me see if I can find this thing.
I mean, this whole thing with the Ukraine, it fits into all this. You just create a destabilized situation, put people on the move. And Poland's been hit pretty hard with Ukrainian migration. And they've kind of, they're kind of running out of patience with funding this grifting operation.
All right. So,
but no, I'm not optimistic. I mean, give me any reason to be optimistic. Challenge me.
Yeah. Well, with this current
besides
model,
being Pollyanna, show me some evidence that this is going to get any better.
I think the only upside to this is what I talked about earlier, when you're seeing members of the Black community seeing this now and having their eyes like.
Well, I'd like to ask that young guy from Minneapolis if he would address the massive looting of the retail sector. Target suffered $1 billion worth of losses in the last year, and I don't know if anybody.
They're leaving cities.
I saw a list of the retail segment, about 40 retail stocks in the markets. They have just been annihilated.
Yep.
You would think we were in some kind of a big bull market, like Nordstrom's was lost 85% of its value.
These guys, let me show you this. These guys were trying to get to Germany. This is on the Poland-Belarus border. And guess what happened? They eventually left and went back because they actually had.
Is this Hungary or Poland?
Of
Poland, okay.
Defense against the migrants. Yeah. Watch this.
Yeah, it's hard to take that barbed wire down. Wow, they got 2 rows of barbed wire, and these guys are trying to get through. Oh my goodness, crazy.
Oh, a bug spray.
Helicopters flying over.
So what they don't show is eventually they bring out the water cannons.
Oh, there it is. The next one there. You just had it.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
There have been clashes between police and migrants on the border between Belarus and Poland, with Polish security forces using water cannon and tear gas to drive the migrants back. Poland has accused Belarus of trying to force migrants across the border in order to destabilize the European Union. Our correspondent, Steve Rosenberg, sent this report.
First, They'd asked to be let in. Now they were demanding. In Belarus, the migrants had run out of patience.
Well, these are Polish water cannon being employed, and that is because around midday, migrants on the Belarusian side of the border.
Well, who are the migrants? They don't really say.
And rocks and branches, and all chaos has broken out. The Polish forces have responded with water, but also with gas. It's quite difficult to breathe.
They might not see. These people might not even be a majority of Ukrainians.
For night,
They're Libyans.
Night, I'm not sleeping.
That's not a Ukrainian.
My
No, they're Libyans.
Jeez.
For 2 hours, the
They got
border
them up
crossing
there.
was like a battleground.
Well, it's so weaponized.
The
Gosh.
European Union says Belarus is using migrants as weapons to
Maybe.
destabilize Europe. The Belarusian soldiers stood and watched. They did nothing to stop the migrants who were storming the border. Why not? I asked this officer. His reply, no comment. And while water cannon fought off the attack on the EU's border, the young and the vulnerable took shelter. Belarus may have engineered this crisis, but that doesn't change the fact that it's people who are suffering.
It's always the kids.
Hello is an actor
Yeah, they're
from
Middle
Kurdistan.
Eastern and
His
North
brother sold
African.
his house so they
Wow.
could afford their
They're not even
tickets and
Ukrainians.
visas to Belarus.
Where do you go now? I don't know. To Iraq, to Europe,
Iraq.
to the camp, to Minsk. We don't know where we're going. We are like a ball in the stadium, Belarus and Poland. They kick us.
When the violence was over, some of the migrants packed up and moved on. They'd come to Belarus to try to get into the European Union. Now, it's destination unknown. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Belarus.
A lot of them went back.
Yeah.
Their goal was to get to Germany. That's where they wanted to go. So I think that group probably mostly Libyans and Afghanis.
Yeah, the Europeans have kind of closed the borders. You know, for a while after the war started in Ukraine, a lot of Ukrainians were on the move, and I think that's kind of slowed down too. Poland has ordered all able-bodied men of Ukrainian descent to go back to Ukraine.
Well,
They're gonna
Ireland has not slowed down taking in migrants, but that's become very problematic. Really,
the reason Poland's sending them back to Ukraine is so they can go into the meat grinder of the war.
Right, right.
So that's not a good reason. These people, are trying to escape military service and a lost cause.
Well, who would blame them?
I know.
Yeah, who would blame them? They're starting to bring the women up to the front lines now in Ukraine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Saw a picture of a gal, face was all bloodied. Not good.
Yeah, any Ukrainian women between the age of 18 and 60 have to register for military service.
This is genocidal. They're killing off a whole group of people. And I think a lot of it is intentional.
Yeah, we've had a pretty brutal subject tonight.
Well, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. I'm sorry to say that. And people need to wake up. That video that you showed where those gangs went into those way upper middle class homes in Michigan, that's what's coming.
The purge.
Yeah, that's what's coming. So unless you live in a gated community, I mean, who knows? Even a gated community with security might not even help you with some of these situations. But yeah, I'd get real hip to this very quickly. Very, very quickly. And what do? Like, you have to know your neighbors, and you have to You know,
Yeah, they're working on taking your guns away from you to defend yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
What's that all about?
Yeah. Well, they don't.
Just all big coinky dink. All there's action, reaction, all the things they do, the things they implement. We've covered Venezuela, we've covered Ukraine, we've covered Libya, we've cut the Darian Pass. It's wake the fuck up.
Before we go, I want your opinion.
Did that just remove you from YouTube and saying that?
No, I say fuck all the time. Before you go, what's your opinion on the Matt Gaetz thing? Do you have any opinion whatsoever?
I think it's just worth a shot. I was listening to Jason Whitlock talk about it. Did you see that? I agree with him.
Yeah.
I think it's just something you got to try. It's war.
It is. Yeah.
You can't patty cake around it. And, you got to make people pay the price or try to get somebody in there that's going to be better. I know that Gaetz is being criticized, because it's kind of like it's a little bit of a gamble, but what the heck?
I mean, McCarthy was just sliding money through to Ukraine. They didn't want him to do it. They had a deal. He broke the deal.
Well, they're upset because McCarthy was a big fundraiser. Going to these crooks and these foundations.
He made them a lot of money.
Yeah, he's a big Uniparty supporter.
Yeah.
So that's not what you need. So I support Matt Gaetz, whatever his name is.
I do too.
But 8 Republicans and to remove the Speaker of the House, 8 Republicans and all the Democrats, it's kind of a funny operation.
Yeah, it's amazing how the Democrats just all voted in lockstep.
Yeah, the Republicans didn't want to do it. So I think the Republicans need to look into their soul.
Yeah. They needed to do that a long time ago.
It was just, it's just like a loophole in the way the leadership is picked, and Matt Gaetz kind of threw a curveball at him.
Well, if you go back when they picked McCarthy, there were some holdouts for quite a while, right? They held out and held out and held out.
Yeah.
And they finally hammered out and I would say to some degree, and I'm not an insider at all, and I follow it a little bit more than casually, but on some level, McCarthy seemed like he was standing up for their interests, right? Like on the surface. But was he really? And this whole thing with running the money, the side deal to Ukraine, that was the one that put him on the hot seat. And it was his demise. So let's see what happens.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Russ, another one's in the books.
Book them, Dano.
What are you going to do with the rest of your weekend?
I haven't decided yet. Right now, I'm going to go to bed, get some sleep.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. We'll see you in a month. Okay.
All right. See you,
ladies and gentlemen. The great Russ Winter from Winterwatch.net, your go-to source for a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, and it's always great having him on. All right. I'm looking fuzzier by the moment. I had to resort to the camera on the on the computer because my freestanding camera was putting me in another dimension. So anyway, thanks for being here. Another edition of the Friday FARcast. We will be back on Sunday night. Next Friday, it will be live from the Hill Country. Friday FARcast at Harvest Moon 5. We're going to have our family as the guests on the show. It's always a fun episode to connect with the people that are hanging out and chat a lot of the time. You get to meet them. It's very cool. So please join in next Friday at 12 noon. I do this once a year. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do when I get to interview you. In the meantime, use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to accept what's possible. And if you're interested, we do have some merchandise that you might like. It's a whole line of shirts over on Teespring that our guy Mark S. designed. And let me show you the store. I'll put the link in the show notes here. So the theme is the Return of the Eternals. And we have some very cool designs. We have white on white. We have the black sun with the black moon and the white sun. And you can get hoodies. You can get T-shirts. You get a mug. I'm getting the mug. It commemorates the dates. We got ladies' tees. We got guys' tees. We got tank tops. And there is a discount code. It is Harvest, all one word, all capitalized. 23, Harvest 23. That'll get you 25% off. And you know, these are reasonable, very reasonable shirts, reasonable prices too. At 25% off, I don't make a lot, just to let you know, right? We're just trying to get this out there, and I'm going to do it for the weekend. Then after the weekend, I'm going to change the code. So if you want one of these fine looking shirts, tank tops, or hoodies, I'll put the link inside of the show notes. Okay. And don't forget our good friend Chris over at True Hemp Science. And all you got to do, if you want to get a goodie bag with your order of hemp products, $100 or more, type in 15MINS, 15MINS. And that's exactly what you'll get. $150 gives you free shipping. Money back guarantee. 30 days. What more do you need? Check it out. All right. Thanks for being here. Use your head in order to show what's real your heart. You said what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You take care. Bye for now.